actually feels like a really good time to be inside and in the potting shed. With so much rain here in Portugal, it feels like it's been raining for weeks here in Portugal. And yeah, nice to be in the potting shed where I think the head gardener is. We'll come to him in just a moment. Let's go to Devon and Anna first. How are you this week, Anna?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'm just about managing to keep dry out of the weather. It's absolutely tipping it down at the moment, and say 8 degrees and absolutely tipping it down. So yes, I've only been out the once. Unfortunately, I wasn't out for too long. And like what happened last week when I well and truly experienced rain in a slightly unexpected way as well, which yeah, was a bit of fun.
Yes, yeah, that was quite an anecdote you shared with us about. Is that the one where you got stuck on a traffic island because of a malfunction of the traffic lights?
It was in the same week, I think. Yes, I can't remember if it was one thing one day, another thing the next day. But yes, because of where I am, if anyone, well, I was going to say, if anyone is familiar with the Newton Abbot area, if anyone is UK,
it could have been one of those videos on commercial telly, couldn't it? When technology goes wrong.
Oh yes, yeah.
Picture Anna stuck on a traffic island for half an hour waiting for the lights to change. Terrifying stuff, Anna, and raining as well. So sorry to hear that. Glad you're warm and dry and inside now, and looking forward to you fielding a few questions this evening. So thank you for being here. Really appreciate you being here and all you do in the group. Let's bring on John Agate as well, also in Devon, just down the road from you.
Ooh.
Hello. Sharing 8 degrees and a bit of rain, I think. And I think you've got an announcement, John. How are you?
I do have an announcement. So hello and welcome to the show for everybody, and also welcome if it's the first time as well. Yes, but my announcement is, so if you forgot to let Anna know about your question or have only just thought of one, let us know here in the comments.
Top man, okay. And obviously you're not far from Anna, are you? A bit rainy and a bit cool this evening.
Yes, and I think you'll probably agree, Anna, that it's tricky. Well, I think we could all agree, actually, it's tricky getting the questions in as a gardening show in wintertime.
Yeah, because it's all a bit quiet in the garden, isn't it?
Yeah, it gets a bit quiet, but so I think we have to be inventive. Yes,
indeed. So please, folks, I know that some of you who are here already do have questions for us. We have a question from Lord Gilchrist, the esteemed gentleman in Lisbon, who has a question for us. And thank you, Phil, for photos and questions. Just a day of rain collected in a wheelbarrow. That is a fantastic photo, which I will also put onto the screen. Thank you also to Louise for your lovely photograph, not of produce this week, but of a beautiful sky shot and taken by Father Morris. So best regards to Morris, and thank you for that picture, Morris. Let's bring on the head gardener. Lee McGrady is going to be wondering when we're getting round to him. It's now, head gardener. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you. Not too bad at all.
Got a brew in your hand. How's Lisbon looking this afternoon?
Grey and damp and a little bit chilly.
It's not what we came here for, is it, frankly?
It's not what I volunteered for. No.
Okay. Evening all from Morris. We were talking about you, Morris, and let's bring that photo on that you took and shared with us via Louise. There's a beauty. Central Portugal. I take it, yeah, that's a sunset, isn't it? Red sky at night rather than a red sky in the morning. And Boutard Carl from Louise, no horta or jardin pictures this week. Been too busy planting, so not much to look at by the sound of it. Picture taken by Morris early Saturday. So it was a dawn, not a sunset. So that was a dawn picture. Fantastic. Thank you, Morris, for that. And yeah, Louise says that's where she gets her green fingers from. Always pottering about in the garden. That's you, Morris, apparently. Lovely to hear from you. And so if you don't have questions, you can share your knowledge as well and wisdom from the garden. We're very happy. It's a team effort here. We are led by the head gardener, Lee McGrady, but always happy to hear wisdom from all over the world, aren't we, Lee, from wherever it might come.
Yep, well, certainly. I do miss the English sunsets and sunrises. The ones in Portugal are just not the same.
Oh, okay. Why'd you say that?
I don't know. That where I've always lived, I've always seemed to get really great sunsets and sunrises, guaranteed, you know, all the time. Even in Manchester, we had the backdrop to where we lived was sort of Berry Rochdale moorland, and that was always illuminated in the evenings. And when I was up in Scotland, it was just perfect there as well for sunset, sunrise. And just not the same in Portugal. It's just not the same.
They're kind of holiday sunsets here, aren't they? Rather than those stunning
Yeah.
ones I think
They're
you're
not.
referring to.
They're not as good as the ones back in the UK.
Controversial stuff. Controversial
It's not
stuff.
controversial. It's not controversial if it's true. If it's true, it's just a fact.
Well, that's
UK sunsets are better than Portuguese sunsets.
all right. That settles it. Let's leave it there, shall we? But it is a sunrise, and I think that's Portugal, not the UK, because Morris is over.
Portugal, yeah.
But Morris
you
is over
can-
here.
You can tell because if it was England, it'd be better.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Let's see what happens. Greetings, gardeners from T Duck. Good evening to you, T Duck. Bon dia, Gria. Wow, it's been gusty. Gusty, that's a good word, isn't it? Don't often hear that unless it's on the news. Gusting winds around here today. Not just with the bottom burbs, but there have been some beautiful rainbows as well. And yes, Diane sent me a fabulous rainbow, which I will share a little bit later on. I neglected to share that. I put that to one side for the morning show, but this is the perfect environment for Diane's lovely rainbow that she shared. And I think that was over at the bottom of your garden, possibly with a sack of gold there as well, Pete. So I'll bring that on before the end of the show. I was almost late, says T Duck. My watch is on vacation. It needed to unwind. Is he trying to sneak a bit of a gag in there? I think he might be. Let's see how that goes this evening. How are you, T Duck? Says Pete to you. Quacking good. Thanks for asking. And Louise in, of course, Botard Adoros. And Pete accusing T Duck of being a violent animal. You've probably seen this, haven't you, in your animal care in some of the gardening you've been doing, Lee. They are quite violent ducks, aren't they? But my goodness, you are crispy and aromatic. We've not talked too much about you with husbandry of the animal kind, Lee. Have you done a bit of farming of that kind too?
Only on small bits, only things I've done myself. But if you ever seen duck sex, it's violent. It's not even sex, it's rape. It's horrendous.
I just nearly spat my tea. I haven't seen that. And now what you've said there, I don't have to see it.
Google it.
No, I'm not
it's
Googling it.
There's videos on YouTube and it is violent. It's horrendous.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. I'll take your word for it. Okay. I turned down a job where I'd get paid in vegetables. This is T Duck's gardening career, I think he's talking about here. The celery was unacceptable. Okay, Tom Smith. Good afternoon from Stony Face, Lee McGrady. Good afternoon. It's not a comedy show; it's a gardening show. Good afternoon from Ohio. I got 5 centimeters of snow this weekend. Yes, and snowing in Portugal as well. Sarah Destrella. I meant to put a picture of the snow into my newsletter that I sent out this afternoon instead of last night. But yeah, it's been snowing here too. You got 5 centimeters of snow at the weekend. Could be worse. Parts of Buffalo got over 2 meters of snow, says Tom. By the way, it's 6 degrees centigrade right now. It was -5 this morning. Oh, my goodness. That sounds so cold and horrible. Thunderduck, you must have been up at the quack of dawn to get jokes to fit that bill. Oof. Phil Ruff, Lee McGrady, not impressed. Bownight Growers from Phil Ruff. Lovely set of pics from Phil. We'll come back to them. Tom, wow, that's a lot of snow. Temperatures here in central Portugal have started dropping overnight, and the rain keeps coming in. John enjoying, I think, T Duck, chucking the odds humour grenade in here and there. Sunrise, that was, of course. And from Pete to you, Louise, living here in central Portugal. Often looks like your photos have been photoshopped. Lee is nuts. In Portugal, they are just stunning, and we've got the picture to prove it. Those are walnuts, not the nuts that Lee is being accused of by Pete there. I knew that wouldn't just come and go as a comment, and that there would be some talk about whether the sunrises and sunsets are better in UK or Portugal. Phil, looking for ATV recommendations for our hectare homestead, moving wood. What's that mean? Do you understand that, Lee?
Yeah, all-terrain vehicle.
Oh, okay. And have you got any such recommendations?
Yeah.
World Rally car.
Yeah, World Rally car will do the trick nicely. You need to get something that's going to be universally useful. So everyone's going to sort of opt for the quad or the quad type bike if you want something that's all-terrain, but it's not always practical. Because with the quad, you have to buy all the accessories that go with it, and they're really expensive. So I would always go for something more traditional, like a dumper truck, or something more built sturdy that you can leave outside without getting stolen. Without knowing his budget, though, it's difficult, and without actually knowing the lay of the land. Quad bikes are a keen thing for people moving over. They get a bit of land, they think they need something to get access to it with a trail on the back, and they're just not safe. So look for more traditional, small tractors, small dumper truck style things, something that's like more rounded, universal use.
Interesting. Anna, I think you've got a suggestion as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I just thinking when it came in, I was just thinking ride on mower. I was just thinking if that manages most of the terrain, but I guess I'm not quite sure if that has different tyres or certain tyres.
Yeah, well, the thing is with ride on mowers is that they come with a grass designed tyre, so it does less damage to the grass. Because if you imagine the mower's designed to cut grass on a flat surface, and anything over 16 degrees, which isn't a massive incline, and those ride-on mowers are just useless.
Oh, really?
They're actually dangerous. Over 16 degrees of an incline, and they're actually dangerous. And you'll see in the books as well, in the manual that comes with the ride-on mowers, they're not road legal. They could never be road legal, purely because of the tyres. And if you got stuck in the slightest bit of damp ground, they're rubbish. They've got no traction at all.
Interesting. So they must stay on the lawn then?
Pretty much, yeah. We had a lot of trouble with them back in the UK in the early 90s when they started becoming popular with the councils and the local authorities.
Yeah.
And they had to get special permissions, and they had to have stuff done to the ride-on to make it road legal.
Right.
But that meant changing the tyres, which then meant damaging the grass areas you were riding on. So if you've got a fine lawn, you need the fine lawn tyres on them, and they can never be road legal because there's not the right sort of grip on it. So
all right. So the ATV question has opened up a right old can of worms. Very interesting. Thank you for that, Phil.
And the other thing with the ride-on mower as well, you've got the mowing deck, which will only come up maybe 30, 40 centimetres. So if you've got any rough ground, you can't get a mowing deck over it without damaging the mowing deck. And that's driven by a PTO system. So once that's damaged, you're wasting money.
Okay, yeah. All right. Phil, I don't know if that helps or not. Try a rotavator with a trailer. They're illegal to drive on the road here, but no one ever gets stopped, and they are great. Is that the one? I love that Portuguese road sign where it says you can't put a tractor or take a donkey onto the motorway. Although I don't think that stops everybody all of the time. Not a rotator, like a rotavator, not a rotator. So thank you. I think we want pictures and links, don't we? And isn't an ATV in Portugal a Renault 4? That is very believable as well, isn't it? I think people do get quite used to taking their road vehicles into the fields. But those pickup trucks, I'd love one of those Japanese pickup trucks that seem to last for 60 or 70 years on the roads of Portugal. I love those with the wooden sidings on them. But great subject.
I've had a couple of the Mitsubishi trucks when I was back in the UK. I had a Mitsubishi 4Works, which was absolutely perfect work vehicle. I really miss that. I really missed that truck. That was excellent. But
with a crew cab
again, it was a crew cab, but it was only a double door. It was a bench in the back, so you got more load space on it. So the load bay was I could lie down on it. It was over 6 foot long on the load bay.
Cool.
And again, once you got a good trailer on the back of that, you can do anything and go anywhere with them.
And did you have a lie down on that loading bay?
Oh, I slept in it. I slept a dozen times. Yeah.
I thought you might. Okay. Excellent stuff. A little bit of talk about ATVs. Should we go to Lisbon and Lord Gilchrist? What does he want to know? You'd think he's the sort of person who have staff to do things in the garden. Is this something he wants to take on himself?
Before you read the question, I've got a feeling he's Googled what's the hardest horticultural question, and that's what he's going to ask.
Okay, let's see. Why would he do that?
I know him.
He's a friend. Okay, Anna, Lord Gilchrist, what's he got?
He's in the Lisbon area if you needed that, and he was asking what is good houseplant care for the colder autumn and winter months, i.e., watering, dormancy, cutting back, etc.
Well, not too bad.
No, it's not a bad question, that, Andy.
Excellent question.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Nice and simple. You really can lay off the watering now because the plant's gone into dormancy. So in the summer, you're watering every second week. every 12 to 14 days is like the standard. Excuse me. Now you can leave that sort of every 6 weeks over the winter period, and then it's not always necessary. I've got a few plants, and depending where the position in the apartment, they don't need watering at all over the winter. Pruning wise, I would say, same as I'd say in the outdoor gardens, it's perfect time of year for doing it. First of all, look at your dead, damaged and diseased, and then cut for shape. Obviously, depending on what the plant is. Use a good quality set of secateurs, not house scissors. And then also, there's a lot of bugs this time of year in Portugal in the house plants. So keep an eye on the bugs that are going to be on the underside of the leaves. If you come across any, just a small drop of dishwater in your spray can and give it a spray all over. And they should take care of themselves this time of year. Apart from that, they don't need feeding. They don't need any special care.
But bear in mind, there's a kind of hibernation going on, and the more you mess about with them, the more you're likely to disturb that and cause more harm than good.
It really does depend on what houseplant you've got. I've got a coffee plant at the moment, which is racing away, and that should technically be in dormancy, but it's just, it's going crazy. And I've got a big dragon fern that's put on at least 6 inches in the last 2 weeks. Again, it should be going into dormancy, and it's having a last minute spurt, but it's perfect time now for a little trim back, a little snip.
Why is that? Why is that, Lee? What's going on? Is it because it's so mild?
It might be more me because I've moved them around recently. I moved them around I moved them around the apartment about a month ago because they were near where the fire's going to be, where the open fire is.
Yeah.
So I moved everything away from the fire, so I didn't damage it when I start lighting the fire. Now the cold nights are coming in, so I think they've appreciate the move they've had, or they've gone into a shock scenario where they're starting to grow quick. But people tend to move the plants around in winter, and that's when they start to have problems, and they don't associate the moving of the plant with the issues they're getting.
Good point. Good point. Okay. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about in that answer to Andy's question there is you said don't use scissors, use a proper pair of secateurs. Is that because the scissors can cause crushing of the stems and so on?
Yeah. Well, you'll notice when with your secateurs the blade is curved, and the base point of the blade is also curved, and it's to give a perfect snip where scissors are perfectly straight and you can't get it around the limb the same.
Okay.
Yeah. Secateurs are made for it. They give a much better, cleaner cut.
Yes.
And I know you think of houseplants being soft and delicate plants. So set of scissors will do it, no problem. But like you say, you get the crushing, you get the snaps, you get snaps along the stem that you're leaving.
Yeah. And
you can never quite get into the small gaps as well. With a secateurs, you can get right up against the main stem of the branches.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good set of secateurs.
That's that. I guess along with your gloves, that's your next best and most favorite purchase, isn't it? Is your secateurs there? Yeah. Question for you, Lee. Thank you for that, Anna. And if you've got any more questions, just do pop them in the chat or pop them into the Get Out and Grow group on Facebook. Question for Lee. I didn't think you had sunrises in Scotland or sunsets. When you did have them, then they were nice, right?
Yeah, I was in Dumfries and Galloway for a couple of years. And my kitchen window looked out over an old mound, and the sun just this time of year was always setting just behind the mound, and it was always a pretty sunset. I do miss it.
All right. So Tom from the Thunderduck, doesn't the snow in Ohio fall in inches, not your 5 centimeters? And says Thunderduck, if you were 20 centimeters tall, a duck would look pretty scary. It would if it was coming at you in the right season. It would be looking like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, wouldn't it? If you were that small scale. Don't Google that. Go that. Not Google, says Phil. Good point of order there, Chairman. And T-Duck, I'm trying to get used to the metric system in advance, possibly of being here in Europe. Once you get to it, used to it, says T-Duck, the metric system is so much easier. I spent my career in engineering. I cringe every time I do a project in inches and fractions. Head Gardener McGrady, are you fully metric now?
I am fully metric, but I was fully metric if I came over because it was just easier. It was more straightforward.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Interesting.
Well, I can flip between the two depending on what I'm doing. Funnily enough, if I'm doing big spaces, I'm metric. Yeah, and if I'm doing little cuts, I've still got my English tape measures.
Okay. Are there tape measures that are sold in Portugal that only have metric then? Is that how it
Yeah.
works? 'Cause
Yeah,
all
there are.
my tools are brought over from UK. That's interesting. I never thought of that. Okay. So yeah, try the rotivator. Gene's with us as well, and T-Duck is urging us to slash that mic button. And the ultimate, of course, the ultimate eco all-terrain vehicle would be a donkey and cart in Portugal, probably. But I don't think Phil wants to do that. That's a whole lot of extra work, isn't it? If you are feeling flush, a small tractor might do the job, says Pete. They are very good at retaining value, and with any luck, you will
Yeah.
sell it more than you paid for it. Are you a tractor driver, Lee? Have you learned how to do operate a tractor?
I drove a tractor when I was at uni. We had to do tractor training. I had to do ride-on mobber training. I had to do mini digger training.
Wow.
Never used it since.
Oh, okay. All right.
Well, you
Bit
see,
like-
I always class it as a boys' toy thing. If you
Yes.
want, if you're on a site and there's one mini digger, there's
Yeah.
a fight to get. There's a fight to get on it. Everybody
Yeah.
wants to use it, apart
Yes.
from me. Apart from me, I'm happy
Okay.
with my spade and my shovel, and I'll just chip away at the sides.
All right. Fair enough. There you
But
go.
yeah, it's not
yes.
my thing.
If in case you were thinking of getting Lee a Christmas present, he doesn't want a digger. Get a Toyota Hilux. I think that's the one that Top Gear dropped out of the sky, wasn't it, John? They are more rugged than many military vehicles. Is that the one? Do you remember that episode, John?
Yeah, it was. They put it on top of a tower block that was going to be demolished, and yeah,
And it survived that.
yes, it survived. It was very damaged, but it did survive.
Amazing. Yes. Okay. Totally
I
agree.
don't know how faked it was, but
You
yeah,
never know, do you, with those jokers? We have a few farmers with them around here, but they aren't off noisy. Okay, so that would be is that the donkey or the Hilux? Probably the donkey. Yes, they
depends if
do
it's the
like a
donkey
braid.
from Shrek or not, I suppose.
Indeed. Oh yeah, he never shuts up, does he? The neighbour has a tractor, so I will likely leverage that, says Phil. Tractors are investments here. That is interesting. That is true, isn't it?
It is true. If you get a good quality one that's universally used, so look for the most popular. Or not always consider parts as well when you're getting it.
Yeah.
Make sure there's somewhere near you that does maintenance for them, and
Yeah.
look for what parts are going to be cheapest and available for repairs. Because I know Jason's just had issues with his
Oh, what
what's
is
he
it?
got? He's got a Lamborghini, and he's had a hydraulic issue with his, which he fixed with a screw bit in finally. But
Did he?
yeah, Jason, you can fix anything. But
Yes.
when it comes to getting parts for Jason's classic Lamborghini,
Yeah.
it's not always that easy. So if you're going to invest in a tractor, invest in something that can be fixed and repaired on site.
Well said. And you probably don't need to bother about the rocket-propelled grenade or machine gun attachment. The Phil's not that kind of person, I don't think so. But thanks anyway, Pete. If you cross a 4-leaf clover with poison ivy, you'll get a rash of good luck. He just won't stop. He's like a machine. Phil Ruff, they sure are. My advice, and I spent plenty of time on it, would be get either a Yanmar, Kubota, or John Deere. But for the latter, you will need a lottery win. Pete knows his farm gear, doesn't he?
Yeah. The John Deere range are very popular because of the maintenance, but they're also popular because if you're a tradesperson, you can get the trade protection, like I have with Still. So there's got mechanics that cover areas, and everything's done in house. The Kubotas are quite good, although they're orange, and I've never really liked the orange colour in them. But apart from that, Kubota range is reliable, cheap or cheaper, and easy to repair.
And it's not a bad shout, then, is it, to get a 4-wheel drive truck of some sort? Because if it will cope with the terrain, it's probably quite a cheap solution to get an old vehicle.
Again, it really depends on what you want to do with it. If you go for the small Kubota tractors, you can actually do everything with them, from mowing to digging. You get all the attachments that you need. You can use them for putting tree stumps in. You can get attachments for everything. But if you've got a truck, technically you've just got a truck. You've just got a flatbed for moving rubbish. It won't do anything else. So it really depends on what your terrain's like and what you actually need to do with it.
There you go. Good question from Louise. What's noisier in the Portuguese countryside? Dogs, donkeys, or cockerels? I guess it depends where you live and what your neighbours have got,
Dogs.
right? But
dogs. No, I can answer that. Dogs. Yeah.
Dogs are definitely okay.
Dogs.
They don't, and Jean agrees. Dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is it? Are Portuguese people born without a certain gene that hears dogs in the middle of the night? Because they don't seem to bother as much, do they, as
Um,
other races, it would seem.
I've got two little examples of this that
Go
both bother me deeply.
Yeah.
As you know, I like to do a lot of walking. And the guy I walk with, we have a bit of a joke now. When we enter a village, we count how
Yeah.
many different dogs bark at us to get to the other side of the village.
Yes.
And we kind of gamble on it, on how many dogs we can hit and upset. But
Right.
I live on a high-rise street in Cluj. We've got a cafe right opposite us, which is peaceful and it's nice and it's all the same guys. But there's one lady that comes with a small dog, and she sits there and it barks at everybody and everything that passes, and she's never once corrected it. If I see her at the cafe, I walk straight past and go home. Because I just know, I'm going to sit there seething at this dog. But there's no correction with it. You know, in England, you would say, shh, quiet. Nothing, like it's normal. Like it's perfect. That's my Portuguese man coming on. It's like it's perfectly normal for your dog to yap at everything.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's sort of culturally not acceptable or unacceptable, but it's just it just
It's
has
ignored.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's ignored, isn't it? And it doesn't seem to bother people. It's amazing. Okay. We've got a few more comments from T Duck and from Phil. I need to show a few pickies now from Phil, but I'll start with Peggy. Remember Peggy came and said she found a really good way of controlling mollusks. This is the mollusc cicida for molluscicide, and it is the Helistar product, which she said was very good. And I neglected to show this sooner. So there you go. There it is. And Jean, I showed the soap that was good for poison ivy. Then I got rid of the picture again. So, but if you want to put the link to that for people who might need that from time to time with the poison ivy rash, Jean, that'll be very helpful. Okay, let's stay with the picture deck and share a few pickies with you. And these are from Phil. Lovely set of pictures from you, Phil. I can't see this one close up. Oh yeah, these are the mushrooms from the neighbor. Look at those beauties. Now, would you eat mushrooms given to you by a neighbor, Lee, Anna, or
No.
John? No. Right, okay, just in case. All right.
No, because you don't know how much expertise they have, so they might.
Yeah, difficult ethical.
Also, you don't know if they're a serial killer as well, potentially.
They could just slip one.
You know, they might be deliberately poisoning you, or they could easily, obviously, poison you accidentally.
Wow.
They could
So
give you 10 good ones and one bad one just to get you cheap land when you pass away.
yeah, be careful, Phil. Okay.
Yeah.
There's this walnut harvest.
They've gone straight in the bin, haven't they, now? He's just whacked them straight into the bin.
Right, this comes to the question. Not sure if we shared our walnut harvest before. I'm not sure if we did, but it's worth showing. Look at those walnuts. It's worth showing that again. Would be useful to know, says Phil, when and how to prune the walnut tree, please, Lee?
Well, I know they're just harvesting now, aren't they? And I believe they're a spring plant for harvesting. So after the last frost, and you really want to cut, because it's a walnut, you're either laying it into a hedge or you're cutting it for fruit or for the nuts. So you want to prune it so it's accessible and it's easy to get to. So if your tree's really big, you want to hack it back as far. You can't kill them; they'll grow back from a stump. So you can hack it right. Yeah, they're great. You can hack it right back down so everything's accessible.
Yeah.
But then allow for the next season's growth on top of that. So if you hack it back, don't think that top branch is pickable, because by next season it's going to be 2 or 3 foot taller. So you really can hack them right back and they will reshoot. I've laid them in hedges where it's been a mature hedge that's been left, and we've laid the hedge. And if you've ever done any hedge laying, it's a delicate operation. You're swinging an axe like it's nothing, but you've got to be careful. You want to lie in flat with what they call a heel, the bit of wood that remains from the stump to the trunk. And on occasion, I've cut through, because they are so soft as well, and they're a bit over flexible.
Right.
And the stump just bounces back brilliantly year after. So sometimes you do it a favour by stumping them. Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's great on the walnut front there. I'm sure that's helpful to Phil. Phil also sent in this picture of a what did he call it? A dilo plant. I guess this is a way of finding out what to plant and when. Looks like an attractive product. Was that from your agri-loja there? But Planador de Horta Biologica. Nice product that you're sharing with us there. Oh, thanks, Jean, for that soap picture as well. Make sure that gets shown today, which will be useful to people, I'm sure. It's a good thing to have it in your potting shed, I think, in case of that unfortunate situation where you might get poison ivy and other ivy oils. I was going to say ivy oils on your hands. And Mrs. M did that, and some on her face. It's not pleasant, I've got to tell you. We have a picture as well. Sorry, go on, Lee.
Can we just skip back to the mushroom thing? I know we joked about it, but we really should illustrate. Mushrooms are very dangerous.
Right. Okay.
There was an article a few weeks ago I was reading of a lady in France that passed away sadly last week.
Yikes.
And she'd used an app. She'd used an app on her phone to identify mushrooms and then tried to cook them.
Yeah.
And it's just not safe unless you really know what you're doing.
It's not worth it, is it?
It's just not worth it, no, because you can buy mushroom boxes, which produce edible mushrooms. If you want to grow your own, you can do it safely in the garden.
Yeah.
If you're going foraging, it's really not recommended. Chris Evans nearly died of it. The radio DJ?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, for a few years ago, he was on a course, on a foraging course.
No way.
And, he what was claimed to be an edible mushroom and ended up in intensive care and almost passed away with it.
Good heavens! Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
It's
really not.
In all seriousness, like what I was saying about, like, you were saying something about, would you take this from your neighbor or something? Well, no, you wouldn't, because you don't know if they're an expert, do you? They're just you don't know much about them. Most people don't know that much about their neighbor, so like you don't know if what they know about gardening or the specific thing there, the mushrooms. So just don't take the risk.
Perhaps to err on the side of caution. Well said, John and Lee. Anna, I think we perhaps didn't finish all of Andy's question, or you've got a supplementary to it.
I'm not sure. I had a sort of question in mind. I don't know if I was thinking of this particular time of year when everything starts to go a bit dormant. But is there a way to sort of tell when something's obviously either way is a plant isn't going to grow, whether it's season or if it's had it. But is there a way to tell if the difference between dead and dormant?
Yeah.
Good question.
Dormancy normally takes a bit of time. Things will start to droop or start to fade. It may still retain some leaves. The bark will still look healthy. I'm trying to think sort of generally. So sort of rose bushes, small trees, they'll still look healthy. And if you get hold of the smaller branches and give them a bit of a bend, there'll still be some flexibility in it. Where if it's dead, it'll start to look dry and it'll start to look unhealthy on the stem. And if you try to give that little branch a bend, it'll just snap straight off. And again, if you're really unsure, you can remove one small limb, one small branch, and you can look at the inside of that cut. If it's dead, it'll just all be brown. It'll be brown through. If it's alive, you'll still see a bit of health and life in there. It'll still be damp inside. It really depends on the plant. But yeah, that's a pretty good way of doing it. Just bend the small branches. But just monitoring your houseplants over this time of year as well. Because you see them every day, you tend to not notice them dying off so quickly. You tend to think one day, oh God, that's dead. Where if it was going to dormancy, you'd look and you'd think, that's not looking as good as it did, and it'll slowly go into dormancy. But you'll see it. It's more of a purpose thing rather than just a dead thing.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fair enough. That's a great question, Anna. The difference between dormancy and death in plants there. Very good. And let's go back to the comments for a moment. We've got a few more photos to share. Top Gear tried many ways to destroy that Hilux, and yet it still ran in that episode there. T-Duck also says, I used to be terrified of gardening, but then I started watching Get Out and Grow. No, he didn't say that. He said, I used to be terrified of gardening, but then I grew a pear. just a shake of the head there from Lee. Kubota use Yanmar engines, and the latter are cheaper, but just as reliable. I think John enjoyed that. We got chemicals from John, trying to keep a straight face. We got chemicals from the local garden shop that the neighbour says is, like Lee said, illegal for such pedestrians like me and us. Yeah, that is the thing, isn't it? You have to be the licensed person at the shop. Would you like to say more about that?
That really does depend, because Roundup is still available in the shops for people to buy.
Yeah.
But it's already diluted, it's pre-mixed, and it's not as strong as the stuff I would buy. There's like a range. There's a range of herbicides, and there's a range of pesticides, and there's a range of insecticides. Okay. The stuff I buy in like 5 and 10 litre boxes, and I have to mix that with water. So the training is more for the mixing of the chemical, where the stuff you buy in the shops, technically could drink it. It's nothing more than tea water.
But don't, please don't.
No, please don't. But,
yes.
But it's rubbish, without swearing. It's not worth the money that you're spending on it. So if you buy an insecticide from the store, then it's really not going to be that dangerous.
Yeah.
Where it could be the same product, branded the same as what I'm going to buy, but it'll cost me more because it's actually worth the money. So it's a bit of a rip-off. It's a bit of a rip-off.
And Phil's saying he's going to give them back anyway, return them to the shop, and use the neem oil to help with the citrus. Neem as in NEEM for the neem oil. And we do have a picture of the citrus.
If you was to Google neem oil recipes, there's lots of them. And it's stuff you can make at home to make it even more affordable.
Yeah.
And it's good stuff. It works. It works just as well as the stuff I buy.
Great stuff. Good to hear.
But you just have to apply it more. The stuff he'll make will be an application of every 3rd week for 9 weeks or whatever. The stuff I buy is twice, and it's done. So that's the difference. Yeah.
All right. Well, and this is lovely to be able to share this. Thank you, Phil and Maria, for this. Oranges are growing. Thanks, Lee and the growers, for your help. So there's a success story for the show, and some nice produce there, some nice citrus growing. Looking lovely. That's the sort of terrain where the all-terrain vehicle is going to be used. And thank you very much for that. Also, Phil wants to show us his plums as well, obviously. And what's he saying there? Young plums. You're right, John. If I take that comment out the way, you'll see the foremost plum there. They are young, aren't they?
Nice,
and they're not going to be ready, are they, till next year? Of course.
Mine won't. Yeah, my plums don't start fruiting until next spring. Now they're in proper dormancy, and they're probably ready for a trim at the moment as well. So.
Very, very lovely looking context environment you've got there, Phil, and some beautiful fruit beginning to show. That's fantastic. Thank you very much. Love it when people share pictures from the garden. And, of course, we can immortalize some of those pickies on our gardeners gallery on the website at goodmorningportugal.com as well. We've got a couple of rainbows to share before the end of the show. Here is the soap, the outdoor skin cleanser. And I made the mistake of saying this soap was made from poison ivy. Very foolishly. It is made to attenuate the worst effects of ivy oils and things that can cause rash and itching. Good for pets as well as people, I believe, and that'll be Technu Outdoor Solutions since 1962. Not a sponsor of the show, but worthy of inclusion, I think, should you ever find yourself in that horrible situation, basically. And Jean saying it's quite good for jalapeno pepper burns as well. So there's similar. It's a similar oil, isn't it? That's in all of these, these rash-causing situations that you get from plants. And talking of which, jalapenos and piri and chili and so on. It's piri week on the Good Morning Portugal show. So of course we've been sharing a few piri chugal. That's really painful, isn't it? But you get the gist here when I show you this. Chuck Perry's greatest hits, etc., on the morning show. This is
Carl's father-in-law makes excellent peri.
Does he?
He makes his own. They have it in jars here. They make it well in advance, and it will blow your head off.
That's Mr. Hyde, is it? We need to talk to about
Carl's father-in-law. Yeah. But Carl, it's excellent stuff. But he's Cape Verdean, so it's going to have a kick with it.
It'll be hot, isn't it? It'll be hot because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's really not very hot when people say, "Oh, be careful! Do you want that on your chicken?" But sometimes it really is. And we can make a Jekyll and Hyde, couldn't we? Have Carl Hyde who he drinks the piri piri sauce and
No,
turns into.
you can't drink it like that. It would kill you. It's like a drop on your finger, and it's enough. It's
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible
All right.
stuff.
John, which picture are you talking about that we need to share with the group?
Oh, the picture of that stuff for the rashes and the burns that.
Oh, yeah,
you just shared.
Yeah, we got that one.
Might be quite helpful for people. That thing, yeah.
What's the worst thing that's happened to you as a gardener in that respect, Lee?
I've hundreds of examples. I've been bit and stung by everything on God's green earth.
Have you?
Everything's had a go at me. Yeah.
Right.
I got a nasty bite a few weeks ago on my finger from doing the hedges, and I have no idea what got me, but it's swollen my thumb up terribly.
Really?
I've got a bee sting about 5 years ago, which was right on the top of my bum. It got stuck in my belt, so it got me on my spine.
Oh dear.
And then I had a spider bite again in Portugal, maybe 2 years ago, on the other side, so right on my belt line at the front.
Yes.
And that was there for nearly 2 weeks. A lump. It was really painful. Every time you tightened your belt or adjusted my pants, it was rubbing against it.
Ouch!
But yeah, I've had all sorts. Yeah, everything that can bite or sting has at some point got me.
All right, let's go to Phil's rain gauge in his garden. It's 1 day of rain in this part of Portugal on the Silver Coast at the moment. How about that? And that's what happens.
That's not a proper day's rain yet, then.
But that's not a right way to store a wheelbarrow, is it, Lee? It should be up against the wall, shouldn't it?
Should be propped up.
Should be propped up
on its wheel guard with its handles at the top, and the handles should be covered at the top with either tape or the rubber grips to come in. Because once the water gets into them, they soon rot, and they're not worth the money after that.
Yeah, there you go, Phil. And a pound coin with some piri piri peppers, chilies, Pab chilies. What does that stand for? PAB, Pab chilies. This year's crop from Louise, late entry. That should go into the gardener's gallery. That's beautiful.
That's pretty, yeah.
But the pound coins are quite difficult to grow. Have you got any tips for growing pound coins or euros?
Well, what you need is a money tree. Now, I do sell them.
Yeah.
I sell money trees. So if you want to send me by MB way, £100, I'll forward you a money tree. I only take orders of more than 10 money trees at a time. Yeah. So send me €1,000 and I'll make sure you get your money tree.
There you go. Sounds like a bargain to me. Excellent stuff. Job done.
I'm also prepared to come and prune it for you once a year.
That's an offer you don't get every day. Okay, very quickly then, the rest of the comments. The mushrooms were good. Done here, says Phil, who has also transplanted 2 more walnut trees to extend the orchard, 2 more figs. The next great news. Pete, we've got some lovely figs and have pruned about 450 trees this week. My goodness. Well, Fernando and his girlfriend will send pictures. Nice one, Pete. It's also good to remove jalapeno oil. That was the soap that we had there. And if anyone wants shiitake mushrooms, we will be selling. I always do that when I'm talking to my kids. They've grown to love that as a horticultural dad joke. If anyone wants any of those shiitake mushrooms, though, they will be sold by Pete next year. Busy week planting this week, says Louise. Dug over the top horter and planted Brussels seedlings, 40 garlics, more onions, and leek seedlings. Fantastic. Even at this time of year, broad beans and trying to strike some roses there. Pete, count us in for the shiitakes and you could keep that talk to yourself, you lot. And Phil, of course, Louise, delicious. Can we get some Brussels off you at Christmas? Pete, says Louise, I was a bit late with the seeds, so they won't be ready for Christmas, not until February. Now, I know Lee hates Brussels, but in an air fryer with bacon and Worcester sauce, they are amazing. Would you do that, Lee?
No, the smell of them makes me feel sick. The smell of them cooking makes me want to vomit. I've never liked them.
All right. Bacon improves everything, but not that for Lee. See you in February then from Pete. Fiona's here. Hello, Fiona. Growing your own safe mushrooms couldn't be easier, and it isn't expensive. The safe way to do it. I heard vinegar is just as effective as Roundup and probably cheaper. Well.
No,
they're both not effective, maybe. Okay.
No. Vinegar just damages the soil.
Oh, okay. We looked at
it's actually counterproductive. Yeah.
Yep. Be careful with that then. Thanks for that. Looked at the website. Great job. Appreciate it. Understand if you have to leave, John. It's past 7, and we've got a couple of. It's past 7 o'clock. See you later, John. I love piri piri, says T Duck. I sent you a picky of. Oh, they're Morris's chilies. Nice one. Lee, does Carl sell a jar? Not me. The other one. Can he get hold of the piri piri?
Who's asking?
Chris, Capricorn Chris.
I'll sort you out about Chris.
I'll sort you out. He says.
I'll
Lee,
sort you out,
surely when that Candiru swam up, that must have been the worst. That's a Candiru attitude you've got there. Lovely chilies, Paul, Louisa, Lottie. Louisa, lovely pic. Let's just show that one more time before we show the rainbows and before we go today. That is a fantastic picture, isn't it? I'd love to put that in the gallery. I hope that's okay. Morris there. And last comment, I think, no credit for the chilies. Yes, they were Morris's, but would love to put them in the gallery if we may. Seems to grow euros to buy a good tractor. There you go. Yes, buy a sought-after tractor for your ATV for your garden. Great questions tonight. Thank you, everybody. Anna, I think did I miss something? Oh, yes, nettles. Tell us about what happened with you and nettles.
I think I vaguely remember this. I think it's partly what put me off bike riding for ages, and as it was, my bike fell to bits anyway after a while. But I was on a bike ride. I'm not quite sure what was the major obstacle for me actually, because of how my eyesight is. My balance can sometimes be a bit unsteady, and it was a bit tricky because I had a whole stretch of water on one side, a whole bush of nettles on the other one, and literally, I think I literally fell back first into a one of those. I don't know if you call it a scrub or if it was one of those proper hedges that you couldn't really stand up because there was no really real solid ground. It was just sort of branches and brambles and all that sort of thing, and I literally fell back first and had to be hauled out by my dad and a passerby because I couldn't stand up.
Painful.
But, nettles I have had a few experiences with, and I'm trying to remember any cures for nettle stings that I can remember, because I seem to think there was another one as well as dock leaves, but it's just gone out of my head for the moment. But
what do you do, Lee?
Just man up and get on with it.
Man up and get on with it.
Yeah, it doesn't last long. A nettle sting comes and goes in no time. The worst nettles are the small ones. When they're baby nettles, that's when they're at the worst. The sting off a small nettle is much worse than a sting off a mature nettle.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. If you've ever tried to hand weed them, you soon realise that the babies are terrible.
Okay, there you go. Look, our friend Ed Matthews is here tonight, saying, "Anna Todd, are you okay now?" I think you're okay.
I haven't got a fear of nettles. I'll put it that way. But yes, I'm trying to stay clear of them if I can.
Lovely to see you here, Ed. Great show again, team. Muito obrigada. Até próxima semana. Absolutely, it's time to go. Apart from, you can get a Brexit tree now. Once it grows fully, it shoots you then in the foot. Oh dear, just managed to shoehorn a Brexit joke in. Plantain mashed up for nettle or other stings. Most nettle stings boost your metabolism. Yes, we've heard this, and great show. All well done. Cheers, Pete. Thank you, Fiona. First rainbow then from Phil and Maria. This one, that's a beauty. Silver Coast rainbow, and then in central Portugal, they've gone one better and sent us a video of a rainbow. This is really beautiful. Thank you, Diane, for sending this earlier on. This is fantastic. That's an absolute beauty, isn't it? What a great way to end the show, from the sting of nettles in life to the wonderful rainbows that you can see as well. All of life is here. Thank you very much, Head Gardener McGrady. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for your comments and questions. See you next week. Bye for now. Ciao.